Everyone, welcome back to our fourth episode of the Each One Reach One podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We have Marcus Barrera right here.
Hey,
Go ahead
thanks,
and
Zach.
introduce yourself.
I'm Marcus. I am just really happy to be here,
Heck yeah, you've been such an amazing person, especially around the church. Because ever since I joined, when I did meet you, you were always involved. Because I met you during an event that we host here at this church.
Yeah, the all-nighter, I think,
The
right?
all-nighter,
Yeah.
the lock-in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's where I
lock-in.
first met you, and then since there, you've got me to do a lot more, especially with PC Kids.
Yeah,
thank
for
you for
sure.
that.
It's been cool doing a lot together. I try to stay busy. It's really easy here at the church. Everyone usually can use some help, so.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree. So yeah, it's awesome to have you here. I mean, you've been such an amazing person to me. So having you on this episode is phenomenal. So we'll go ahead and kick it off on. I don't know if not many people know this, but you are an ex-Marine. Can we confirm that?
Former military, yeah. I was a sergeant Marine Corps.
So what got you into that? Was it the RS Camaro that they sold you, or?
No. That's a funny story. I really thought I was gonna go the college route. I had good grades and I was, good SAT, ACT scores.
Yeah.
It's the end of my junior year. And I had always had this desire to kind of go in the military. Like, I thought it was just, I don't know, like seeing movies, like Top Gun was so cool. I wish I could fly airplanes, which, I mean, I didn't do, but I
People that do.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And I just really liked that, and so once I was older and actually trying to figure out what to do next in life, I decided to see if I could do something with the military. Took practice ASVAB, and I went, and for some reason I talked to the Marine recruiters, and I just liked it. I thought it sounded cool.
What was
And
it
was it.
that sold you though? So if it wasn't a Camaro, what was it that they were?
It was
pitching
actually
you?
a video that I was on their website, and I saw they had one video for all 12, 13 weeks of boot camp, and I watched every single one. And there
Were
was
you
a
like,
video.
Oh, that's easy. I can do that.
No, I thought it was a challenge. I liked the challenge
Okay.
aspect. Like, it looked like, whoa, like I think I could do that, right? And there was a video of different jobs, and at the time I was thinking of doing like electrical engineering or something business related. And so I saw a video of avionics, and there was a Marine who was on an aircraft carrier. He was fixing F-18s, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And I went to the recruiting office. I was like, hey, this avionics, can I do that?
Sign me up right here.
And that's pretty much what happened. They were like,
And you got
take
to
a
do
practice
that, though,
ASVAB,
huh?
and yeah, I was able to do that.
So
Crazy.
what's like your craziest story then, especially being in that world? Because it's a whole different world
It
being in
is
the
a different
military
world.
than being a
It
civilian.
is a different world. Just going overseas, being on a carrier was insane. I think just being out in the middle of the ocean, that was something I never thought I would ever do. And going to like, I did go overseas we went to the Arabian Gulf, Persian Gulf, and just being in that area there, we were able to stop in a few places, and it was really cool to see just the culture and just how people live and meet a lot of really cool people. But also just kind of just being there doing what we were doing was really surreal. So
That's awesome. Well, like with being so far from home, like being on an aircraft carrier, you don't have access to, for instance, what a normal person would be on base, where
Right.
they have their day off, they can go to town or
Yeah.
like that. So what kept you going? Like, for instance, in your pursuit of Christ, like what? Because I know there was probably moments where you're like,
yeah,
this is a lot.
that's for sure something that I think not a lot of people get to a point where, I mean, there's 5,500 people on an aircraft carrier, and
I didn't know that. Actually.
it's a mini city. It's a floating city for sure. And I was on night shift for most of my time, and there are no days off. They would kind of try to do like a skeleton crew on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
So every Sunday you would work like half the day ish, and that was just per shop thing. That wasn't like a set in stone rule.
Yeah. It's just if you're lucky,
Our
you're
shop
part
was
of
like,
that.
hey, like let's do half days. So one half of the shift will show up the first 6 hours, and the next half will be the next 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, it was 12 on, 12 off every day till you ported. Usually, it was about 28 days, 29 days till you ported.
So you're just
And
straight working for a whole month.
working.
Just work, sleep, work, sleep.
Yep, breakfast, lunch, dinner.
That sounds very fun.
Yeah, so how I really like made it, the military environment is there are not a lot of believers. I mean, there's people who are like, oh, I grew up in church or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you get those type of people, but no one's going to church. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of those people who are like
They don't really have that
on
boat.
fire
Yeah.
for God, And for me, deployment, I remember the chaplain, I was really close with him, Chaplain Johnson. He was amazing. He would do a Bible study in the morning, so I was able to finish my shift with him. And that was like huge, just every day being able to like kind of reset with the word,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of know some other sailors around who also wanted to be around God. But I think the biggest thing that helped me overseas was having a sacred space.
Mm-hmm.
And I was super lucky to have this because it was night shift, so it was really, really like it was a skeleton crew. There wasn't all the higher ups running around. Like, it was just workers, and it was bare minimum. Maybe like 20% of the ship is up at night, And so the chaplain, he said like, hey, Barrera, anytime like this chapel is always open. Like, there was a little chapel. The room was honestly probably like twice the size of the studio. Like, it was not very big, but he was like, hey, these doors are never locked, like all day. They're never locked. So if you or anyone ever wants to come in here anytime short of like service happening, you could always come in here. And so that's what I do. If I was upset about something, if I was mad, like if I was sad, missing people, I would just leave my shop, go up to that, and that was like quiet.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guitar, so I could play music if I wanted to. And I've heard of people having a space like that, like in their house, but it really did make a difference to know that, like, okay, this is like where God is for me. Like, when I go in here, like, I'm now with God. And I never thought of that or experienced that or was intentional with that before being on deployment. And I think that
until God showed you that, gave you that space.
That was like a whole thing, yeah.
Because in Matthews, it even tells you, like, Jesus tells you, like, not to be, like, when you go to pray to the Father, you want to be in the presence of the Father, not to do it up on a stage, just by yourself in a room, just you and the Father. So I think that also having that, or that person reaching out to you, letting you know, hey, this you can use this as a safe space to do that, probably was, I mean, obviously you said it was huge for you.
Yeah, it made a huge difference. That's really what got me through deployment, because I mean, you're stuck around people you don't even want to be around, so like,
yeah, you're in a hot steamy boat.
It was pretty much like COVID, being stuck in your house around people you don't want to be around, only for 6 months. So
except you get paid.
Imagine
you just get paid.
Yeah, but you work all day.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
true,
people got paid to be at home,
Yeah. So what was it like the first day off that ship? Like, you're done, like, you get back, you're like, it's over.
Yeah, that was hard. Actually, coming back was nice being back, but it was like you didn't realize the toll that it took until after the weight was lifted, and it still felt like it was there.
Yeah.
I think that was hard. It was great being around family again, friends again, and just familiarity.
But you get so used to that.
It was so different, such a different environment, a different way of life, and different dangers, that it was just like coming home and just leaving everything else behind. It was still just lingered in the back of your head, like.
Yeah, because my dad, when he got back from the military, he would always tell me stories like, it's a whole different environment. Like, they work you to ends that obviously that you wouldn't, like, your normal boss wouldn't do here. It's just a whole
Yeah.
different. When you come back, not having that, it's like weird because you're so used to it.
Yeah.
It's just crazy how those things, how veterans when they come back, they don't come back like bad. Like it's not bad or anyways. It's just they come back as a different person in a
Yeah.
way.
It's just one of those things that, like, unless you've been through it, it's hard to really understand, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So when you got back, what did you do? Like, what was your first steps to? Because a lot of people when they finish doing that, it's more of that's the hardest thing is like getting a job or getting stable again.
Yes,
Because
like you mean like when I separated from the military?
yeah,
Yeah, so let's see. My deployment, I had about 17. I had a year and a half left. So I was in the Marine Corps from July 2014 to July 2019. So I had a 5-year contract.
okay,
And I was actually fortunate enough. I knew I could kind of, because I worked on electronics and had a background in just fixing things in such an in-depth level. Like what I did, I was troubleshooting down to the component level. So we were fixing circuit boards
oh, okay,
for the for the avionics. I worked on radar. So the radar was what I worked on, and that was a really in-depth
yeah, 'cause
occupation
those
in the
kind of
military.
things are high def.
And so I knew I could get a job in a lot of different places. It was just a matter of where. And my wife Sam, she actually was given an opportunity to be a kids director in Arizona, and we knew some people out there, and so that was kind of like, okay, well maybe this is the next step. We'll just move to Arizona. And she actually moved out 9 months before I was separated from the military. And I drove back and forth from San Diego to Phoenix.
Oh, that's even 'cause from
every
here, it's
weekend.
like a 10-hour drive over there.
It was like 5.5 hours each way. So I was driving like 10 hours just to see my wife every weekend. It was rough. But I mean, we did that because we knew that's where God was wanting her to be, right? And it's like, well, 9 months from now, that opportunity probably won't be there.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of played into the next part of when I knew I was getting out. There's a lot of programs that help you like get your resume done and start applying like months before you separate. And they're all required classes before you get out.
Okay.
And I applied to a few places in Phoenix, and I was like, man, I really wish I can get a job here because it's close to where we're going to live, where our church is.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Intel Corporation, the CPU processor company. And I applied there and got an interview and got hired like right before I was even moved out. So
yeah.
I was pretty lucky to have a job lined up right before I separated. And so that's kind of where I was next. I was at Intel for about 3 years.
So God, like being like with those moments like that, you're like, what am I gonna do? And then God comes through. Like, what is that feeling of? You're like, because you were at that moment where you're kind of just like, I really hope I get this job because I'm starting to get towards the end of this contract. Because if not, you would have just moved there.
That was a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like I was back at the end of high school, and it's like, what are you going to do with your life?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it felt like, was like, man, like, the 5 years are up now. I guess I just delayed the question of what am I going to do with my life until now, and I just kept doing, I thought, well, I guess I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, right? Like, I have the training and the knowledge, the expertise, the experience, so I'm just going to stick with fixing electronics. And when I applied, it was scary because it was just kind of like, okay, Sam already lives out there.
Mm-hmm.
We already have like where our house is, and we're living on my current and her income.
Yeah.
So I need to find something like soon. Otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen.
You're not going to have that income.
We already have all of our bills lined up, and I don't have a job yet. So it was scary. But I think now more than ever, I've really learned that to really just let go of what happens next. I think it matches my personality anyway. I'm more of a go with the flow person.
Yeah.
Anyways, so it's like, I'm just gonna throw my resume out there and like just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Just gonna throw a net in the ocean and see what you catch.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I really tried to not think too hard about it. I didn't not do anything. I still tried to do everything I could, but I didn't stress about it
Mm-hmm.
because I knew before that, we were already, God already called Sam out there, so there's going to be something for me, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I was leaning on.
Sam's now, as the viewers don't know, she's our new uh, kids pastor here
Right.
at People's Church.
Right.
You're always here helping her out. You're always here around volunteering with the kids or volunteering with our student ministry. Like, what is like? Because I know military, you're taught order, discipline, all that. Well, but then you're working with little kids that know none of those things. I mean, they're drawing on everything possible. They're screaming, yelling. Like, how were you able to like have that shift of like mentality to be able to have that patience with these kids compared to like when they don't even in the military they don't have patience for you.
Right. I think the stark contrast is what's so enticing. Like having kids just be, me and Sam always call it controlled chaos, right? Like just so chaotic, but let's just kind of have
Keep it in
it's
here.
like
Yeah.
let's just put some guardrails up and just let everything bounce in between that, but catch the outliers that fly outside of the guardrails.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where it's been for us, and I think that I love working with students and kids, especially just because of the potential, right? Like one of my favorite quotes is the head coach of the Steelers. Totally forgot his name just now, but he said a long time ago, not very recent. It's not about what you're capable of; it's about what you're willing to do. And
I have heard that one. Yeah.
Talking to his like players, right? Like there's so many people capable to be where you are right now, but they weren't willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's something that applies to everyone's lives, right? Like me being a Marine, there's not so many Marines out there. There's so many people capable of it, but nobody's willing to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like
you're one of the few to do it. Yeah.
But and even when ministry, right? Like we're all capable of ministering to people. Some people aren't willing to put in the work though. And I think kids really need people who are willing to show up for them and willing to see the potential in them. And I think that's what me and Sam both love about working with kids and students.
That's awesome. Yeah, because, I mean, when I joined about People's Church, and I'm new to whole Christianity since like a year ago, right? I think April 9th it was the 1 year since I started attending People's Church. So at first I didn't know what God wanted me to do. I prayed about it, and then next thing you know, for some reason I decided I'm going to go walk up to Pastor Dale and ask him, hey, what can I do to be involved with like students and all that? And he said, go talk to that guy. And that guy was the current student ministry pastor, Marcus Marshall. And ever since, I've now just been working with so many different kids, being able to help them through things that what I needed help with when I was younger. And it's just like, and when they like, there's moments when these kids that like, I can't do this, or like no one else is going through it, and being able to like relate and be like, this is what I went through, and I'm still here now, and being able to push them through that, it's remarkable. Because being able to see these kids excel is the reason why I'm here. It's awesome being able to see that, and it's awesome knowing that you also help these younger, because you're the one that kind of like brings them up, and then we take them.
For sure,
we keep going, but
definitely.
But yeah, because I've worked with PC kids for a couple months now. And I could say you are a trooper, because I can't handle the babies. The babies are like, what is it, a pre-K?
Yeah.
I could do the walkers, but those two age ranges, oh my.
Under 1 year old. Yeah. They're,
because when one goes, the other one's.
They're really difficult for
we
sure.
We still love them.
But babies need to be loved too.
Exactly. So what like with, now that you're like, because you guys have traveled, you used to be in San Diego, Arizona, now you're here in Fresno. Yeah. What do you think God's gonna do next in your life?
It's funny you say that. Me and Samantha, I'm from Modesto originally, so not too far from Fresno, about an hour and a half north.
Yeah.
and born and raised all 18 years, recruited out of Modesto. And I remember when I left, I said, I'm never coming back to the Valley. Like, I did not want to have anything to do with the Valley. Like, all from Sacramento all the way down to Bakersfield, excluding the coast. I didn't want to be here. Like, that was my 18-year-old self in that bubble of Modesto. Like, I need to get out of here. And I ended up landing in San Diego. Love San Diego.
Hell
it's
yeah,
amazing.
you got the best city here in California.
Love San Diego. And
Go Padres.
one thing that me and Sam always say is never say never, right? And I remember when this opportunity for both of us, Sam's from San Francisco, so and she was kind of the same way. Like, yeah, like I want to be in a city, like I want to be in a different. I don't want to be in Modesto, you know, or the Valley. And so when this opportunity came up and we heard it was Fresno, it was like, oh, well, like, let's just, like, it'd be like networking, right?
Yeah,
like, you know, like, but it's Fresno. Like,
yeah, it's hard to convince people to come to Fresno.
To be honest.
You're like, oh, look at all these other places for them to leave, but bringing them.
To be honest, I'd probably only been to Fresno like twice before moving out here. Like, I lived in Modesto, drove through tons of times. Like, just on the 99, though. Like, that's not.
You just keep driving.
Never been to Fresno, and we love it here, you know? Like, the fact that we moved out here and when we visited, like we really do like everything that's here. We love all the people. Like, we're close to a lot of things. It is nice to be closer to our family. But I think that that us moving out here really was just showing, like, God showing us that whole, like, never say never thing. And so I think we don't really think about what's gonna happen next. We'll see what happens, but
that's
for now we like
God,
where we're at.
You never know what's gonna happen.
We're open and willing wherever He's gonna call us.
That's awesome. Well, as we're coming close to the end of this episode, first of all, I just want to say thank you, and I want to leave you with one thing: is what advice could you give people behind the camera of, like, how you can reach others? Because you've reached so many. Like, you guys host so many different events that bring people together. You by reaching them, you help us grow in our faith. What advice could you give to those people to help them reach others?
I think it's easy to just hold on to what's next, especially like me being in the military, right? Like, that end of the contract was in my mind right when it started, right? Like, I was like,
I want to be out.
I was like, man, like, 5 years, this is a long
you were checking
time.
The days
like, it just felt like an eternity away, and I was like, man, like, how, like, once I get out of the military, I'll be able to do this, or once I'm done with school, I'll be able to do this. Like, if we give ourselves a few, which there's nothing wrong with a future planning of hey, once this is done, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. But I think the danger is, and one thing that I realized in my time in the military and working in other areas, is where you are now is a mission field. And if you focus so much on getting out of where you are now and into the next thing, you'll miss reaching someone where you are now.
It's kind of just being, like, present in the moment.
Yeah, like, just me living life, loving God, and being around, living that different lifestyle with in the military. Like, guys saw that. Like, they're like, hey, like, you do things different. You don't lead like some of these other guys do. You don't carry yourself and do all the things that other guys do. Like, I'm going through something right now. Can you, like, help me? Like, what I've never really read the Bible. Could you, like, help me out? Like, where should I read? Or, like, what, you're listening to this weird music that I've never heard before. Like, what is it? You know, like, it just living, just living your life like that now and realizing you could reach people where you are now, I think is probably what I would.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you.
Say.
And, you know, as we come to a close, I just want to thank you guys all for tuning in. Again, this is the 4th episode of Each One Reach One podcast. We'll see you guys next week. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Follow all our social medias, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a great day.